Jessica Lanthorn, and I'm doing my commemorative speech on Edgar Allan Poe, the poet who didn't know it. Some interesting facts about Edgar Allan Poe is that he enlisted in the Army under the name of Edgar A. Perry. He was adopted by the Allens, who had technically not actually adopted him. And he was obsessed with cats, and he often wrote with one on his shoulder. He began to write under the name Edgar Allan Poe, Allan being his practically adopted parents' last name, and Poe being his biological mother's last name. And there's his quote, and his birthday, he was born in 1809, and he died in 1840. And why was he one of the most memorable poets in history? He was an enigma. He was a mystery. No one knew a lot about him. In the book, The Complete Poetry of Edgar Allan Poe, it stated in the introduction that the literary historians considered him to be the creator of the short story. By the time he turned 40, he had written a lot of, well, not a lot of poems, but he had written a while, but he still wasn't considered to be a poet in the eyes of other poets. He had written essays, short stories, book reviews, fantasy pirate stories, and travel essays and a novel. To American poets, he was not considered a poet. Ralph Waldo Emerson, James Russell Lowell, and William Cullen Bryant and Walt Whitman dismissed him as a poet. Referencing back to his subtitle, his fame didn't actually come until after his death, which is why I said the poet who didn't know it. Most of his supporters were from France. His death was a mystery, and to this day, no one knows exactly what happened to him. His documents pertaining to his death, like his death certificate and his medical records, they went completely missing. No one knows where they're at. And since that day, there have been a multitude of theories. Suicide, murder, influenza, rabies, and alcoholism, to name a few. His well-known works include The Raven, The Bells, The Telltale Heart, and Annabel Lee. In an interview with Stephen King for the Talk Stephen King, he talks about how Edgar Allan Poe was, in fact, the influence for his stories. When he published The Raven, he didn't make a lot of money off of it, even though that's what made him a household name. To this day, he's one of the most well-known poets in America, and there's so many books, films, television shows, and even plays that reference him and his work. He continues to be one of the most famous poets in history due to his horror stories, the mysteriousness that surrounded his life and his poems, and his career in an interesting way that he was able to put words onto a paper and form a story. Without him, what would be the modern short story? Would it have been the same at all? And teachers teach about him because of the huge impact he had on the history of writing. In conclusion, Edgar Allan Poe Society in Baltimore has created a place where you can read all his poems, and it has a place where his followers can just learn about him and be with other people who love him. And people love him because he's mysterious and tragic all at once. Thank you for listening. Are there any questions?
Where did you say he was again? Where is he from?
Baltimore?
And he died at 40 years old.
Yes, ma'am.
He got a lot of work done for 40 years.
Well, he didn't actually write a lot of poems. I have a tiny little book that lists every one of his poems in it, and the list is about maybe this good.
Is that his house in Fayetteville?
No, sir, it's not. It's a different Edgar Allan Poe. He was a mason. A brick. A brick.
They do teach him in school because I remember a lot about Edgar Allan Poe.
Yeah,
I don't remember, but I remember studying.
Yeah.
I don't remember all the words.
I remember, he's one of the main poets that I remember talking about in school and everywhere. everyone knows him. Whether or not they know him or know his poems. They know his name. Thank you.